I should have told him 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, when I passed my open water certification test on the first try, when Marcus signed off on my logbook with that proud smile of his, when he said I was one of his best students. I should have just taken my certification card and moved on with my life. Instead, I told him I wanted more practice. I told him I wasn't confident enough yet. I told him I needed a few more sessions before I felt ready to dive on my own. The truth is, I didn't want the lessons to end. I didn't want to stop having a reason to see him twice a week. I didn't want to lose those 2 hours every Tuesday and Saturday, where I got to exist in his orbit, where the rest of the world disappeared and it was just us underwater, communicating through hand signals and shared glances through our masks. It started 4 months ago. My sister Vanessa had given me a gift certificate for my 30th birthday. Learn to scuba dive, she'd said. You're always talking about wanting to try something new, about feeling stuck. So here, do something that scares you. She had no idea how prophetic that would turn out to be, though not in the way either of us expected. I showed up to that first pool session terrified. Not of the water or the equipment, but of looking stupid, of being the worst one in the class, of failing at yet another thing I'd tried to add meaning to my life. There were 6 of us in that initial group. Marcus walked onto the pool deck, and I remember my first thought was that he looked too young to be an instructor. He had this easy confidence, dark hair still wet from an earlier session, board shorts and a rash guard that showed off a swimmer's build. When he smiled at us and said welcome, his whole face lit up in a way that made you want to make him smile again. The first few sessions were standard. He was professional, patient, thorough. He had this way of explaining things that made even the most complicated procedures seem simple. When I struggled with clearing my mask underwater, he didn't make me feel incompetent. He just stayed there with me, demonstrated it again, gave me time, his hand on my shoulder steady and reassuring. I passed that skill on the 4th try, and when I surfaced, he was grinning at me like I'd just discovered a new species. That's when I started noticing things I shouldn't have been noticing. The way water droplets caught in his eyelashes, how his hands moved when he demonstrated equipment assembly, precise and confident. The sound of his laugh when someone made a joke during surface intervals. The way he'd push his hair back when he was thinking, leaving it sticking up in different directions. By week 3, I was showing up early to every session, telling myself it was just to get extra practice time to review my skills. Really, it was to have those extra 15 minutes of conversation while he set up equipment. We'd talk about dive sites he'd been to, places he wanted to explore. He told me about learning to dive with his dad as a teenager, about how being underwater was the only place he felt completely present. I told him about my job in graphic design, about how I spent my days staring at screens and felt like I was forgetting how to exist in physical space. He got it. He really got it. The pool sessions gave way to open water training. Our class was down to 4 by then. We did our certification dives at a local quarry, visibility maybe 20 feet on a good day, but Marcus made it feel like an adventure. On our 3rd dive, we were practicing navigation underwater. My buddy got separated from the group somehow, and suddenly it was just Marcus and me, following a compass heading along the silty bottom. He kept checking on me, making the OK sign, and I kept signing back that I was fine. Better than fine, actually. My heart was racing, but it wasn't from the dive. When we surfaced, he was laughing. "Your air consumption is incredible," he said. "You're so calm down there. Most new divers burn through their tank, but you're just cruising." I didn't tell him that being near him had the opposite effect on land, that my heart rate probably doubled every time he came within 3 feet of me. I passed my certification on that trip. I knew I'd passed. Marcus knew I'd passed. But when we were packing up the gear and he asked if I felt ready to dive independently, I hesitated. Something in my chest tightened at the thought of not having a reason to see him anymore. So I lied. I said I wanted more practice, maybe some additional training dives. He looked at me for a long moment and I couldn't read his expression. Then he said, sure, we could set up some mentored dives, work on buoyancy control and navigation skills. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, we've done 6 additional dives together. Just the 2 of us now. The other students have moved on, taking their new certifications on vacation trips and weekend adventures. Meanwhile, I'm still showing up twice a week, pretending I need more practice on skills I've already mastered. The dives have changed, though. They've become less like lessons and more like shared experiences. We stay down longer, explore more. He's shown me things he says he doesn't usually show students. A spot where bluegill nest in the spring. A submerged tree that's become a haven for crayfish. Last week, He brought an underwater camera and took pictures of me practicing my frog kick. When we surfaced, he showed me the photos on the dive shop computer, and his shoulder was pressed against mine as we leaned in to look at the screen. I could smell his soap or shampoo, something clean and cedar-scented. I had to physically stop myself from turning my head toward him. The thing is, I'm not even sure what I'm doing anymore. I've never been good at this, at reading signals, at knowing if someone is just being friendly or if there's something more. I came out when I was 25, late enough that I missed the whole figuring it out in college thing. I've had a few relationships, nothing serious. I'm not practiced at the whole dance of attraction and possibility. And with Marcus, I can't tell if I'm inventing feelings that aren't there or if I'm deliberately ignoring signs because I'm too scared to acknowledge them. There are moments, though. Moments that feel like something. Like last Saturday, when we were doing a safety stop at 15 feet. We were just hanging there in the blue-green water, nothing to do but wait and breathe and exist. He was floating about 3 feet away from me, and I caught him watching me through his mask. When our eyes met, he didn't look away immediately. We just hung there, suspended, looking at each other. It probably lasted 5 seconds, but it felt eternal. Then he smiled behind his regulator, the corners of his eyes crinkling, and gave me the OK sign. I signed back OK, and we held each other's gaze for another breath before he finally checked his dive computer. Or Tuesday afternoon, when we were rinsing gear after the dive. My hands were clumsy from the cold water and I fumbled my regulator. He caught it before it hit the concrete, and when he handed it back to me, our fingers touched. He didn't pull away immediately, neither did I. We stood there for this suspended moment, my regulator between us, his hand warm against mine. Then someone called his name from inside the shop and the moment broke. I think about him constantly. I think about him when I'm at work, when I'm trying to fall asleep, when I'm grocery shopping and see something that reminds me of a conversation we had. I think about the way he says my name, Theo, with a slight emphasis on the first syllable. I think about how patient he is, how present, how he makes me feel seen in a way I haven't felt in years. I think about what it would be like to kiss him, to run my hands through his hair when it's not plastered down with pool water, to hear him laugh without 3 millimeters of neoprene between us. But I also think about how I'm lying to him, how every time I show up for another practice dive, I'm being dishonest about my skills, about my needs, about my real reasons for being there, how he's spending his time with me when he could be teaching new students or diving for his own pleasure, how I'm taking advantage of his kindness and professionalism. Today is Saturday. I'm sitting in my car in the dive shop parking lot 45 minutes early like always. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes having an argument with myself. I need to tell him. I need to tell him I passed the test 3 weeks ago. I need to tell him I don't actually need more practice. And maybe, possibly, if I can find the courage somewhere in my anxious, overthinking brain, I need to tell him why I kept coming back. The dive shop door opens and Marcus walks out. He's carrying a gear bag, probably setting up for our session. He sees my car and waves, that same warm smile that first made me want to make him smile again. My stomach does a complicated flip. I get out of the car. The spring air is cool, but the sun is warm on my face. Marcus is wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt from some dive resort in Cozumel. He looks happy to see me, and that makes everything both easier and harder. "Hey Theo," he says as I approach. "You're early. Again." He's teasing me gently, the way he's been teasing me for the past few weeks about my chronic earliness. "Yeah," I say. My voice sounds weird to my own ears. "Can we talk before we dive?" Something in my tone makes his expression shift. His smile doesn't disappear, but it becomes more careful, more attentive. "Sure, of course. Everything okay?" We sit on the bench outside the dive shop. There's a view of the quarry from here, the water dark and still in the morning light. I can see the platform where we usually start our dives, the orange buoy that marks the descent line. I don't know how to start, so I just start. I passed my certification test 3 weeks ago. The words come out in a rush. I mean, I know you know that. You signed off on it. But I've been pretending I need more practice because I didn't want the lessons to end. I didn't want to stop having a reason to see you. The silence that follows feels enormous. I can't look at him. I'm staring at my hands, at the quarry, at anywhere but his face. My heart is pounding so hard I wonder if he can hear it. "Theo," he says finally. His voice is soft, careful. "Look at me." I force myself to turn toward him. He's not smiling anymore, but he doesn't look angry. He looks thoughtful, maybe a little surprised and something else I can't identify. I know, he says. I blink. What? I know you passed 3 weeks ago. I've known the whole time. His lips quirk into a small smile. You're a good diver, Theo. You were ready for certification after the first open water session. You're calm, you're skilled, you're careful. You didn't need 3 more weeks of practice. Then why did you keep doing the dives? The question comes out barely above a whisper. He takes a breath, looks out at the water, then back at me. For the same reason you kept coming, I think. Because I didn't want them to end either. The world seems to tilt slightly. I'm aware of every sound, the breeze moving through the trees, a car passing on the road behind us, my own breathing. I have a policy, Marcus continues. I don't ask out students. It's a professional boundary I've always maintained. But technically, you stopped being my student 3 weeks ago. We've just been doing mentored dives, which is different. He pauses. That's what I've been telling myself anyway. So you've been thinking about this too, I say. It's not quite a question. He laughs, but it's a nervous laugh, vulnerable in a way I've never heard from him. Theo, I've been thinking about almost nothing else. Do you know how hard it's been to maintain professional distance with you? To keep things appropriate? You show up early to every session, and we talk about everything, and you look at me sometimes like I'm the most interesting person you've ever met, and I have to remind myself that I'm your instructor, that there are boundaries. You're not my instructor anymore, I point out. My voice is shaking slightly. No, he agrees. I'm not. He shifts on the bench, turning more fully toward me. So here's what I'm thinking. We cancel today's dive. We go get coffee instead. Real coffee, not the terrible stuff from the dive shop vending machine, and we have an actual conversation where we're not instructor and student, where we're just two people who maybe want to get to know each other better. I'm nodding before he finishes talking. Yes. Yeah, I'd really like that. His smile returns, full force this time, and it's different than any smile he's given me before. It's not the professional instructor smile or the encouraging mentor smile. It's something more open, more genuine, maybe a little nervous in the same way I'm nervous. There's a coffee place about 10 minutes from here, he says. They have good pastries too. I haven't had breakfast yet, have you? I shake my head. I was too nervous to eat. Nervous about the dive, he asks, then catches himself. No, nervous about this. About telling me. Terrified, I admit. I've been sitting in my car for 20 minutes trying to work up the courage. I'm glad you did. He stands up, offers me his hand to help me up from the bench. I take it, and even after I'm standing, he doesn't let go immediately. His hand is warm and rough with calluses, familiar from all the times he's helped me with equipment, but this feels different. This is deliberate. We walk to our cars, and he suggests I follow him to the coffee place since I don't know where it is. As I drive behind his truck, following him away from the dive shop, I feel like I'm floating. Not the neutral buoyancy of being underwater, but something lighter, more effervescent. Like someone just added air to my BCD and I'm rising toward the surface. The coffee shop is small and busy with Saturday morning traffic. We order at the counter, and when I reach for my wallet, Marcus waves me off. I asked you, this is on me. We find a table in the corner, away from the main flow of people. So, he says, wrapping his hands around his mug, tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with diving. I laugh. That's almost all our conversations have been about for 4 months. Exactly. I know you're a strong swimmer, and you have excellent buoyancy control, and you're maybe too safety conscious for your own good. But I want to know other things. What do you do when you're not pretending to need diving lessons? So I tell him. I tell him about my work, about the frustration and occasional satisfaction of design projects. I tell him about my sister Vanessa, who's my best friend and biggest cheerleader. I tell him about my small apartment and my collection of plants that I'm mediocre at keeping alive. I tell him about the novel I've been trying to write for 3 years, that's still just fragmented scenes in a dozen different documents. He tells me about growing up in Florida, about his dad teaching him to dive in the Keys when he was 14. He tells me about studying marine biology in college before realizing he preferred teaching diving to doing research. He tells me about his terrible apartment with the leaky faucet he keeps meaning to fix, and his cat named Bubbles who's afraid of water, which he finds endlessly ironic. We talk for 2 hours. We order more coffee, then lunch. The conversation flows easily, naturally, punctuated by laughter and moments of comfortable silence. It's like all those pre-dive conversations we've had, but without the time limit, without the professional boundary, without the weight of things unsaid. At one point he reaches across the table and touches my hand. It's brief, just his fingers brushing my knuckles, but it sends electricity up my arm. "Sorry," he says. "I've been wanting to do that for weeks." "Don't apologise," I say. "I've been wanting you to." The afternoon stretches into evening. We leave the coffee shop and walk around the nearby downtown area, still talking. He shows me his favourite bookstore, a cramped little place with stacks of used books reaching toward the ceiling. I show him the art supply store where I buy materials for the personal projects I do outside of work. When we finally stop walking, we're standing by my car in the dive shop parking lot where the day started. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Marcus is standing close enough that I can see the green flecks in his brown eyes. "I really like you, Theo," he says quietly. "I have for a while now. I just didn't know if you felt the same way, and I couldn't risk making you uncomfortable when you were my student." "I really like you too," I say. "Obviously. I mean, I kept pretending I couldn't dive just to spend time with you." He laughs. "That was pretty obvious, yeah, but it was also really sweet. Misguided and unnecessary, but sweet. I can feel the nervous energy between us, the awareness of proximity, of possibility." "So what happens now?" I ask. "Now," he says, stepping a little closer, "I'd really like to kiss you, if that's okay." I close the remaining distance between us. "That's very okay." He cups my face with one hand, and then he's kissing me. It's soft at first, tentative, a question. I answer by wrapping my arms around his waist, pulling him closer. The kiss deepens, and it feels like that moment of breaking the surface after a long dive, that first breath of air, that rush of sensation. When we finally break apart, we're both smiling. His hair is mussed where I ran my hands through it, and I'm sure I look equally dishevelled. "So," he says, still holding me close, "want to go on an actual date sometime? Maybe somewhere that doesn't involve neoprene and dive gear?" "I would love that," I say. But also, I do actually want to keep diving. I wasn't lying about loving it. Good, because I was thinking we could plan a trip. There's this site I've been wanting to dive in the Caribbean. Could be fun to go together, as not instructor and not student. "As what then?" I ask. He grins. "How about as two people who are figuring this out together?" I kiss him again, softer this time, sweeter. "Yeah," I say. "I really like the sound of that." As I drive home later, my phone chimes with a text. It's from Marcus. "Had an amazing day, can't wait to see you again. Maybe Tuesday. We could do dinner instead of a dive, or both." I'm flexible. I'm smiling so hard my face hurts. I text back, "Both sounds perfect." I think about all the things I was afraid of 4 months ago. Trying something new, looking stupid, failing, being vulnerable. And I think about how the scariest thing ended up being the best thing. How the vulnerability I was most afraid of, telling Marcus how I felt, opened up something I didn't even know I was looking for. Sometimes you have to take a leap. Sometimes you have to trust that even if you don't know how deep the water is, you have the skills to handle it. Sometimes you have to stop pretending and just be honest about what you want. I'm done pretending. I'm done with unnecessary lessons. I'm ready for whatever comes next, and I'm ready to dive into it head first.